Hello, everybody. Hello.
Hey.
Welcome to today's Simply Together show. Cecile, I'm here. Who am I on with today? Lovely Nike, lovely Shelley, gorgeous Louise. How are you all?
Really good. Yeah, very good.
We're all good. Thank you.
How you doing, Nike?
I'm trying my best,
Okay.
Going at deep into normal, I call it. Yeah.
Say that again?
I said deep into normal.
Okay. Shelley, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. After the dog walk and being a bit blustery this morning, I'm fine now. I'm now indoors.
It's a bit windy out there, isn't it?
That's putting it mildly, isn't it?
Yeah. On the field that I'm on, because there's no trees or anything around you. You literally the wind comes up the hill and then blasts you straight in the face. So you throw the ball and it might go sideways.
And Louise, how are you doing?
I'm really good. Yeah, I'm really good today. Full of energy and positivity. It's the 1st of November, 2 months of the new year. So yeah, all good. Very good.
Wonderful. So today we are going to be doing a show about self-care, self-worth, the things that people do to help with their mental health, with their stress. So for anyone who's watching, what does self-care mean to you? Drop us a line, just let us know. Let us know you're there. What is self-care? For everybody, it's going to be something slightly different. So we're just going to kind of touch on that today because as Louise said in her post, anybody who follows Louise said in her post today, it's the 1st of November. So we are a month and a bit away from Christmas, which brings for a lot of people a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. We've got the economy crisis at the moment, so people are worrying about how do you still do Christmas. There's ways to do it, and then we're going into a new year that also brings stresses. A lot of people will be thinking, do I need to stay in this job? Do I need a different job? That comes up beginning of the year for a lot of people. So we're kind of going to have a look at that, and everyone's going to chip in. So I'm going to start it off as a counsellor's point of view, also including myself as well. So it's a personal view as well. But as a therapist, when I'm working with clients, for me, expressing to them that self-care is really important is paramount, really, because if you're doing some real deep work and you're bringing up a lot of emotions, maybe past trauma, people may be suffering from PTSD, it could be anything that we're talking about in that session, they then need to go and look after themselves. Because you and I, as a therapist, cannot just leave them sat there, walking out the door or coming off a Zoom and leave them with those feelings without letting them know that they do need to take time for themselves. I think it's something that I've realised over the years of working as a therapist, but also for myself. And for people around me. So I know that self-care is really important. And some people, depending, if I've only worked with them maybe, a couple of times, you bring up self-care and they kind of don't know what that is. And, I will say that you need to look after yourself. You need to go, I don't know, do you need to go and have that cup of coffee? Or do you need to go and have that bar of chocolate? Or do you need to go and sit and watch some TV or listen to some music or go for a walk? Whatever it is that you need, that's what I then try to get across to them. And some people struggle with it because they're busy. They don't take time for themselves, and coming to therapy is the time for themselves. And then don't realize they also need to take some more time for themselves. But those that I've been working with for a number of sessions know when I then say, don't forget self-care. You need to then look after yourself. and it's very important. So this weekend, so I have to do that for myself. I don't do it as often as I should, I don't think. I recognise that. No. Far too busy. I'm far too busy to do self-care. There's no time. But this weekend just gone, I did take time. One of our ladies within Simply Deez group, Sandra Moore, puts on a Nourish and Nurture Your Mind and Body and Soul autumn retreat. Absolutely fantastic. I cannot express any more than that. When the next one comes up, you need to join. It's absolutely fantastic. I left there Sunday feeling so nourished. The stress had been lifted. It's opened up my eyes to things that I need to do for myself. We did some Tai Chi Qigong lessons. We did two of those, one on the Saturday, one on the Sunday. Oh, that is just something else. Those movements and how it kind of feeds your soul. It was, that was absolutely brilliant. And we also did, I'm reading this because we did Tamado sound harmonization. So
wow.
You lay down. Say it again.
Is that with the bowls?
Wow.
Yes, the bowls. There was like a little harp. There was chimes. There was all sorts, and they were all spread out over different color, like silk material, and those were the chakras. So they were all laid down, and then all these different musical, not only just instruments, there was stones and everything, were laid on top. So then you lay down, close your eyes, and ultimately most people fall asleep. Nikkei would have been asleep in 5 minutes because you would have done. I know you would have done. And Absolutely. They literally go round and they do all these different sounds, and it kind of just goes into your body, and just releases all of that tension. It was fabulous. So thank you, Sandra Moore. But not, and I appreciate not everybody can do that. That's not something that you may be able to afford, or, but there's ways to look after your self-care. So tell me some of your ways then. Who wants to go first?
So I'll go first. So you're actually right, still, like it's taking that time for your self-care, because when I burnt out last year, I had no self-care for myself whatsoever. I wasn't having any time in any way. So now I have a non-negotiable. It's on a Sunday, I get 4 hours. I do something in the morning or mid-morning, and that's getting out at nature. So I take my grandson out. I either spend time alone with him or with my daughter. We might just go for coffee, might go for a walk. But that is no phones, nothing. It's just me and her walking. The only time I ever get the phone out is if I'm taking pictures. But I have that time with them, and I just feel so much better for it. And then in the evening, I use the other time that's left to have my aura cleansing bath. So I put salt, Epsom salts in the bath. I put lavender in the bath. I've still got a load of fresh lavender from the fields that I picked. I put that in there, and I listen to a spiritual lesson. So I follow somebody called Master Co. I've done a lot of his trainings. He's online on YouTube. He does trainings, spiritual lessons, does a lot of Chinese proverb, but he mixes all different across all religions and all faiths, and he does a little spiritual lesson, and then you do a meditation. And the whole purpose of that is to do your chakra realignment, to make sure that your energy chakras are flowing for the week. And I do it every Sunday, and obviously the salt helps cleanse my aura, and it just sets me up for the week, and I won't compromise on that. Everything else you can have, I'll work longer hours, I'll work on a Saturday, but on a Sunday, it's a hard, absolutely no. I'm not doing anything but spending time with them. And it, for me, doing that, I feel so much better. And I know then that I've had my little bit, so I don't mind working hard during the week. But yeah, that's my thing.
That's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. I mean, I took my laptop with me and didn't take it out and didn't even look at it until Monday. So the guilt in me felt that I needed to take it. And if there were clients, because I have 1 or 2 clients that are in crisis at the moment, so my thought was I could, if they reach out, then I can then respond. And I left that in the boot of the car and brought it from the boot into my house.
It's interesting that you've used the word guilt, that you would feel guilty for not having that, for not being there, accessible 24 hours a day, is what you're trying to say. Yeah. So why do you feel that guilt? Where does that come from?
I think for me, it's because although I've been counselling for like 16 years, this past year has been my counselling the new life, so left my previous work, and this is what I'm now doing. And I'm kind of feeling like, I need to be on top of this. Otherwise I'm not going to get the clients, or I'm going to lose the ones I've got. So I've got to be there. And after the weekend, I then kind of realized that I cannot be there 24/7, because if I am there 24/7, I won't be able to give them. And this goes back to the last time you was on. I'm sure it was the last time you was on. And if it wasn't this, it was something else that you was on. And you pretty much told me that if I don't have that time for myself, I am not giving them the best of me.
Yeah. Was that when I called you selfish?
Yes.
That was. But this is the point, isn't it? Because you've had that time now. You've had time for you. And as a result of that, you feel recharged. You feel better. Yeah. So you can now go on and give people more of you. But when we beat ourselves, when we're busy all the time, we don't take that self-care, we begin to lose all of our good energy, and we feel zapped, and we can't give people the best if we feel zapped. So that's why I say, like, sometimes you're actually selfish if you don't take self-care.
Yeah.
Because it's really, really important for you to operate at the best that you can, to be the best you can, to give your clients the best you can. So I'm glad you're going to listen to that.
I did listen to that. I did. Nico, what do you do? Because I know you've got ways of looking after yourself.
Chat. I talk a lot. If you will catch any of my TikToks or Instagrams, you can quite often get a peep of me because I'm on FaceTime. That's part of the reason why I started doing it that way, because you don't have to talk. You do the talking afterwards. So I find, I get stressed out if I don't talk to my people, generally speaking. And the other one for me is always a big one, is saying no. I think the biggest example of that is the recent, we've had a bereavement, and at the very next weekend, they were like, oh, well, let's all go to his house. And I'm like, well, I don't want to go there. And ironically, it was actually my brother, and I'd spoken to one of my nieces, and she was like, oh, Auntie, they're telling us we're going to go to the house again. It's too soon. So I'd said to her during the week, I said, well, if you don't want to go, don't go. You don't have to be obnoxious about it. Just tell them that it's too soon. That you'd rather leave it for now, or if there's anything you wanted to blah, 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 blah. And then when it came down to it, when someone was out, I'm like, no, I don't want to go there at this stage. And so, but afterwards, in the middle of the day, I kind of felt a bit funny. I just thought, ooh, but in the end, I just thought to myself, no, it just wasn't right for me at that stage. And so I did it. And it is situations like that.
What was it like to say no? How did that feel? Here comes therapy in me. What was that like? How did that feel?
I didn't particularly feel guilty. I just felt that, I just wanted to feel confident that I was actually just honoring how I felt, and the fact, because I didn't really want to go, but then again, I was trying to weigh up, well, why did I want to go? Is it because it was too soon? Is it that I don't want to be in his house when he's not there? I was just trying to make sure that it just aligned with how I was genuinely feeling. It wasn't the inconvenience of having to go somewhere. So once I had that conversation with myself, then I felt much better. It did take a while. Yeah. So that is one for me. But yeah, it's chatting, and I do like the baths and the candles and things like that. But I can be a bit lazy, to be honest. Um, so yeah, that is generally the main thing. And the other thing actually is actually something that I'm sure it was Shelley that posted this the first time after I just met her, is when it is okay to just feel lousy and miserable.
Yeah.
And that is generally, but with that, I still want to be doing what I would ordinarily do. So, so which means that I am still going to taekwondo. I'm still going doing all the things that you would do. It just means that I wouldn't necessarily have that spring or bounce in my step.
Okay.
So yeah.
Before we go to Shelley, sorry,
No.
I was just going to say, because if you look in the comments, so Deez put, why are we made to feel guilty when we say self-care? But Rita, so one of our lovely Simply Deez ladies, Rita James, who I am going to tell off now. So she's learned. She said she's learned the hard way. I think she's still learning, because Rita gives over and above to every single person that comes her way, even if it's somebody she's only even met once.
Yeah.
And she does a lot of charity work and fundraising and stuff like this. And then she's also unwell herself. So there's lots of things that she has to then go and support with. That's how she sees it. We've had this conversation with her on numerous occasions. And Dee has put that she needs to put herself first. You've got to put other people on that back burner. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to recover, to be able to help anybody anyway. So Rita, my darling, you need to start putting yourself first. All of those people that you help are still going to be there. Yeah. Maybe somebody else will pick up the slack and help them. But you've got to look after you. And yeah, listen to what we're saying, because I've had to learn and I've had to listen. So you have to listen as well. But yeah, I mean, love you to bits, Rita. And she does so much, so much. But you've got to come first at times. Shelley?
A lot of the times, I think.
Yeah.
I think this is probably, it might be a bit left, right and centre, but sometimes when you're somebody who gives out as much as that as well, when you do finally get into the habit of taking time for yourself, then some of the weeds are going to come out. And you might find that there's some people who you are helping through no fault of your own, because you're such a generous soul, but you actually could be enabling their, oh, I need this all the time behavior. Yeah. And, you know, the first time you're not available for that person because you do need to look after yourself, I think will be very telling.
Definitely.
I was trying to find a picture that I found along the way. When you say about energy and things like that, because everyone says that you can't pour from an empty cup, and everyone gets that analogy. But when you're a kind of person like Rita, that everyone wants to have a piece of you to help themselves and they feel better, there's a picture that I've seen that's got one person that is an energy source to quite a lot of other people, and they rely on that energy source, and they recharge their batteries off of you. And this person's got all these leads going off, and that one person, if they don't go off grid and reboot themselves or charge up themselves, everyone else is then going to go there and feel that, because they're just used to being a permanent line straight into you. Yeah. Now, their battery could be at 50%. It could be that they're feeling really bad, but your battery could be at 5% and you're still trying to recharge the person that's at 50% because they're feeling a bit off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is what this one picture was showing you, all of that. I'll have to try and find it, because it just made so much sense that with energies, and that's kind of how I see it, that you will have people that will drain your energy when you're in the room with them, and you're kind of trying to sort everything else out, and you're the person that is in that group is the person that does that.
I call them energy vampires. that just suck
Yes.
the energy out of you. There's a lot of them around. There really is. But it's really key for her for Rita to look after herself, because as we know, she's not well. And in order to recover, you need to have all of your strength. So, you know, saying no to people, as Nike said, the first time you have that conversation will show a lot about that relationship. And what's interesting from this conversation is when we say yes, there's no justification. It's like, should we do this? Oh, yeah, we can. But if we say no, it's like, oh, no, I can't do that because of X, Y, and Z. And then you're sitting there looking for things to say why I can't and why the answer's no. When we should have to justify that. It should just be no, just like we say, you know, but we've got so used to saying no because of, and if we haven't got an excuse, we'll try and find one, which then compromises us because we might make something up that's not true, or no. So we'll go against
it's only partly true.
It's true,
It's always something that you then think, as part of your working out whether you're going to say yes to someone, that part of that is, how is that person going to feel?
Absolutely.
You will always have that in as one of your first thoughts. And it shouldn't ever be like that in a way, because, okay, if they know you that well, some people may not, shouldn't actually be asking you those particular questions, because they should in theory know that that's actually now going to make me feel worse because of the subject you used, or how many times that you keep asking it. And it's like, you ask something of me, but you don't actually don't ask me or understand or listen when I say, oh, I'm okay. But actually, no, you're not okay. So there's all those kind of things that fall into it. And as you say, that you will automatically think of what the other person before you actually then say your answer, because you think, I suppose in Nikki's situation, that it's kind of, they'll think that I'm just making a thing of it, that I don't want to go around to the house, when actually, no, I don't want to go through all the different things I've thought about going to the house. It's not just, it's just awkward for me or whatever. I've actually thought about this. But as you say that to someone, as you say no, you're automatically thinking that, all right, what are they going to be thinking when I say no? And that turns into a whole, the whole thought process and stuff. And it is difficult to say no. I've always been someone that says yes, always have been. And I suppose it comes from like the family dynamics that we've had, that everyone came up to see my granddad being the head of the family, and we lived with my granddad. So if something happened in the family, you'd go to the head person. Now that then turned into my mum and dad being that head person when my granddad died. And it wasn't until they kind of retired that it wasn't put on them. It wasn't kind of like, I could see it in their faces, because sometimes people would come up in the family and they'd just come up to say hi. They want to see your family. But sometimes people would phone and say, can I come up? And you'd get what's this conversation going to be? Why are they coming up? Are they going to ask me something? You know? Because you're the person that people come to all the time. But it's a strange one. One of the things, as we're talking about self-care and stuff, don't ask me to say that word. Is it hug? Hug? I love the philosophy of this.
I do.
I have got a book on it, and you read into it and more. And more that you look into it, the more companies from like Danish and Norwegian companies, I'll actually put it into their constitution that your workforce needs to have somewhere, and encourages you to have these sit downs, this kind of tea and coffee and cake kind of situations for your well-being, but also how your workplace is then going as well. Because if you're sitting there nice and comfortable, you'll quite often talk about home life, or you'll talk about the project that you're working on, and it's a warm environment to be in. I think over here, definitely, we don't actually have that kind of a thing.
No, I've loved this. And the thing is, I love this because when we look at those cultures and we look at sort of European cultures and certain Asian cultures, they're group orientated. So what they are is this is what they like. It's community. It's come together. It's sit down, converse, have these conversations, you know, eat cake, eat food, whatever it is, and enjoy that part of the environment. We are like English, American, German, we're individualistic. So we've not been like that. We've always been singular. We just do this. And half of us don't know our neighbours. So we've kind of got out of that part of it, when that's not a way of well-being. That's just a way of life, I think, for them. And I love what they do over there. I love that whole concept and putting that in.
That was the question, Louise, because you say that's really interesting that you say that, because do you think it's where the social divides have changed over the years that it's become more like that? Because I mean, I spent the first 11 years of my life here, and I didn't feel it was that way at all. I actually felt it was more communal. You did know more people, and if something happened to you, you know, people will be there, like, no, don't, etc. But over the years, with increasing social mobility, different people joining into, you know, like basically, like you said, an influx of different cultures.
Yeah, I do think that, because when you look historically at sort of like certain estates within, say, Luton, for instance, they're like community estates. Everybody knows everybody. They're a friendly environment. But as time's gone on, we've had there is a social divide, and from that, they're not communicating as much with people. Then if you look at the health side of things in terms of our mental health, our well-being, that's got a huge spike in terms of, you know, not. Mental health has gone up. It has increased because we don't have that community thing now. And I think where poverty and austerity took place, like, well, it has been, but you look at when they removed community centres, they removed youth clubs, they removed that part of it. There's been a huge spike in mental health because of, not just because of that, but that's been a huge contributing factor to that, because they're the community hubs. And you look at what they're doing over in Scandinavia, Denmark, and those countries where they've got that thing nailed down. It's a lot nice productivity as well. They don't do 5 days a week. A lot of them do 4 days a week. Productivity is higher because people feel better about themselves. So I do think, Nico, that there is a part of that. Yeah.
I mean, even to the point of what's going political now, what the BBC are doing now with local radio stations in particular, that they're closing down the local radio stations. Now, for communities like ourselves, sort of like what we do with Simply Deez and what Louise does with all the other bits that she's doing, you would rely on someone local to talk to about what's going on. And things like, I mean, it sounds like a really petty thing, but every single the BBC radio station has got some kind of treasure quest, is what we've got in the 3 counties. Down on the south coast where my mum is in Weymouth, they don't go out and about, but they do have a quiz. Now, that just seems like it's a quiz and it's getting people together and getting people involved. But on the backside of that as well, you've also then got communities that are doing things that people are finding out about, or you've got like the local historical society has just done up a house that is then doing an open evening or an open day. You're finding all this stuff out about community. Now, if they shut down all of that, even to the point of the old days at night, that you kind of got the whole of the, I know it doesn't go from 3 counties now, it does go East Anglia kind of thing. But if they're phoning in or they're texting in where people are on their own, they know they've got someone local and someone positive and someone that's been there for years that they can talk to.
Yeah.
And you'll lose all of that. So things like what we're doing in the sort of like what we are doing in the community itself, kind of go this into this. We've got International Men's Day coming up, and I've got my like mental health mates walk. I decided I'll put a new date for that coming up. Things like that, to be in amongst your communities. One of the 5 ways of well-being, being involved in amongst things and having communities and giving back, which is something that I think a few people in Luton have been a bit. They haven't quite accepted that Luton Borough Council have decided they're doing this 5 ways of wellbeing. They think it's a bit of a joke, but it's not them that's made it up. It is an actual thing that's out there. Mental health people have actually looked into it, and it's the 5 ways of. But yeah, so in the comments, I put the 5 ways of wellbeing in there that Luton Borough Council are doing. But as part of that, we do at Simply Deez all the time is the community aspect of one of those 5 ways. And we've got our International Men's Day that we're finally back in person at one of these community hubs. We're still doing it with Marsh Farm Futures House. So we do a lot of work with them. 26th November. I've got the 10:30 time there. That's the time when the doors open. Bit of networking to start off with. And then I think from about 11 o'clock, it'll be the full programme starting. And if you've ever been to one of our International Men's Day, you'll realise that it's quite full on.
Yeah,
it's jam-packed.
Yeah.
Literally jam-packed.
We need the energy.
It's I think it's the International Men's Day, International Women's Day, those in particular. The first one I went to was 2019 International Men's Day.
Right.
They say men don't speak, and that's not true. You need to give them that opportunity. And on our International Men's Day, they have that opportunity to come and tell their story, share with the people that are there, because there's always one person. There's going to be somebody in that audience who is going to resonate with what you're saying, and they have the opportunity to come to Marsh Farm Futures House, 26th November, and it's inspiring. It is literally inspiring. Yeah.
It does kind of develop its own atmosphere, in as much as us at Simply Deez are female. We put it on, and the men just let it carry on. They're all. There's all sorts of different things that they start talking about. It's not just mental health, about well-being. It's everything, but it takes on its own life in a way.
Yeah.
But it creates connections. So it's not just the one event. Connections are then made. People are getting ready for the next event. Can't wait to see you till then. Swapping numbers. Projects start working together because they then suddenly realise that they're both kind of doing something quite close, and promote each other.
Yeah.
And it's not just, it's difficult to explain. It's not just an one-off event. This is now the seventh year that Deez started doing these. And some amazing things have actually then come from that.
But it also feeds into the self-care, self-worth, so you then they have that opportunity to share their story for them to use that as a way to self-care, because they are opening up, and with the feedback and everything they get, that's where their self-worth then starts to grow. I just say it's inspirational. It's absolutely inspirational, and we're going to be promoting it over the next couple of weeks, because it's at the end of the month. But yeah, if you can get down, please come along. So Louise, you was talking about self-worth in your post today.
Yeah, and actually it's interesting that you've mentioned about that, the International Men's Day, and people coming to share their story, because as you know, I've been quite open with my story about my past and how I've used that to kind of, spur me on to do what I do now. But the last couple of weeks I've had the negative side of that, and people pull me down because of my past and sort of mock me for it. And I had to sit back and think, okay. And it did knock me, because it was somebody very close to me at the time that was doing it. And I thought, I didn't see it coming. So I had to sit back and reflect and think, okay, where do I go? What do I do with this? Because I've then started to sort of feel that I was maybe not good enough, and actually second guess myself, and who am I trying to kid? Why am I trying to do that? What, I've got nothing to offer. And then I had to sit back and think, actually, no, I have got a lot to offer. And actually, this is my strength. It's not my, my weakness. But what I had noticed was there was boundaries that I hadn't put in place, and I hadn't put those boundaries in place. And when I sat back and when I reflected, I thought, right, what can I do to get my self-worth back? And it was actually to own those mistakes and realize that, do you know what? Yes, I've made mistakes in the past, but we're not, a baby isn't born walking. A baby literally comes out and it crawls, and it gets knocked down time and time and time again until it gets up to be able to walk. We're not born speaking. We have to practice words over and over again before we can say them. So yes, we're always a work in progress. So what I had to do was look back and think, actually, do you know what? No, I wasn't perfect. I'm not perfect, and perfect is objective. So your perfect is different to my perfect. And I'll always be a work in progress. But if I own what's happened to me, if I own my past, that gives me the foundations that nobody can break from me. So yes, I put my hands up and say, actually, that is me. And from that then builds up I then started to feel a little bit stronger. And then you sort of own your truth. And when you own your truth, you feel better about yourself. And when you feel better about yourself, you get more self-worth. So for me, it's about, look, people, nobody's perfect. And we always compare. We look at social media, we look at we're comparing our sort of backstory, our background work to somebody's Instagram reel looks like perfection. We're always trying to compare, and comparison is the thief of joy, So it's more about just owning who you are. We're all unique. We've all got our own stories to tell. But once you start owning that and be proud of that, then your self-worth will come. So that's what the post was about this morning. Yeah.
Can I just say, so there are two things there, because I know you've got to go. So the first thing is it kind of, when I read that, I just thought, who is doing that to you? Who is doing that to you? Because actually, you have owned your past. You have put it out there, and you're doing so many different things, partly because of your past. Yeah. And I just thought they're out of order. There was F words flying around as well. And I just thought that is just wrong. But the other thing is that sometimes we don't know we need to put those boundaries in until those things happen. Yeah. As a Simply Deez organisation, the last year we have had some things that have happened which has now made boundaries really important. Mm-hmm. And most probably didn't even realise that until those things happened. Yeah. And then you have to sit back and think, I need to put those boundaries in, because we can't have that again.
Yeah, and this goes back to my hard boundaries around me having time for myself, and on the Sunday is really important, and it feeds into self-care, because when we're not looking after ourselves, we feel tired, we normally feel emotional, we normally feel just out of sorts. So if we're not spending that time, we're running on, even if we're running on 80%, with 20% in deficit, if we are running at 80%, there are times when we're going to feel compromised and challenged, and on our self-worth is going to take a knock. And that's what I think was happening there. I was kind of giving, and actually I didn't implement those strong boundaries. So now it's like, right, I will not waver on the things that I've set, because it's not just my self-care. My self-worth gets compromised at that point because I'm giving. So they feed into each other. And this goes back to what Rita was saying. Rita's comment, like, it's really, really important that she puts those things in place for her own self-worth as well, for her own self-care. So yeah, it's really important. Self-worth and self-care sit together massively, and there is only one of us. We're the person, we feel everything, nobody else does. It's us that feels the sadness, the emotions, the tiredness, or whatever it is us that internalizes it, nobody else. So we are the most important thing. And once we've looked after ourselves, we can give, and we can give more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
With that being said, can I just say something? I heard from Oprah Winfrey, and it's a bit of an interpretation from Psalm 23. You know, where it says that my cup overflows. You know, where that bit there kind of reminds me of what you're saying there. But what she says that people forget, like Rita, like you said, that you're just giving out that cup. But in actuality, the bit that you're supposed to share to turn on other people's batteries is the bit that is overflowing.
Yes.
So it's from there. So obviously, once the bit that's overflowing is gone, that is when, you know, like what you were saying about the 80-20. So even that really, by that definition, is still very, very generous.
Yeah, because when you think about that, I love that analogy, because when you think about when you're overflowing, your base is on the floor still, and you're overflowing. But the minute you have to pour, you're off. You're not. You haven't got your footings on the floor, whether it's a square, whether it's a triangle, or whatever it is. You're off balance. So the minute you're off balance, then you're vulnerable or to being tired, to, you know, self-worth, self-care being compromised. So yeah, I agree with that.
It's just such an important discussion, which we can't go on forever, because obviously, you know, it's a lunchtime show. Just wonderful show. It's a topic that we will come back to again, because it is so important for everybody. So thank you for watching us. Thank you for being here. If you're watching it on replay, let us know. Is that what you say, Nikkei? If you're watching on
replay, hashtag replay, let us know so that we can come along and say thank you.
And we'll be back next week. Next Tuesday, 12 o'clock. See you then.
All right, ta-ta. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye.